Okay, so let's start a bit differently today. So let's start from the real basics. So just standing to attention. Okay, so when we're standing in attention posture, which is what this is called, then the feet are pointing forwards, they're quite close together. And the legs are pretty much straight, but not locked. So that's a very slight give in the joints. So what's interesting about this posture is that it sort of highlights the feeling of sinking from above. So this feeling of hanging off something. So your sinking is a hanging from above rather than a sinking into the ground. So this is what we just want to start with. So your spine is like a plumb line. It's just hanging down, and the sacrum is the plumb, is the piece of lead on the end of the line. So you want the joints in the legs just to be free enough to allow this just to sort of hang down. So we don't want the legs to be pushing that up too much. We want the legs to allow that heavy bone to descend down to the ground from this place of hanging here. Okay, so we want to feel the place on the top of the head where we're hanging from. So it's what we call the crown. So it's the very top here. So when you bring the chin in, then it's the point that's the highest on the head. Okay. So apparently, according to John, the Chinese wear those jackets with the Mandarin collars, and they used to sew a button on the inside of the collar at the very back so that they could be pushing their neck back onto this button, so they would feel the button pressing into them and they would push back on it. So to get that stretch in the neck and to get the right point pointing upwards. Yeah. So the feeling in the head is like there's a circulation coming around the line of the jaw, up the back and down the front. Yeah. So there's just a circuit of energy. Okay, now just put the finger, maybe the middle finger, on that crown of the head and just push the chin in here. So as you push the chin in, you should feel like a lift here. Yeah? And then just lift the chin and just see where the finger ends up. So that's the fontanelle. So that's the little hole that was open when you were a baby. That's also important. Yeah? So now you've got a different circuit going on the head. we've got this one. So this is that sense of sort of lifting expectantly, aspiring. And then just push the chin back in and just feel the circuit switching to this one. So just a very subtle change in the position of the chin changes the circuit inside the head. So if you were praying and you were sort of looking up expectantly, then you'd have this circuit going, the same as here. Yeah? And if you were being sort of studious and humble or whatever, then this would come in and you'd have this one going. Yeah? So as we're standing here, we just want to feel that we're being held up from above. And we're just trying to relax the legs more and more and more. So we're just at that point of them collapsing. So the more you relax them, the more sort of random movement will come into the body. And the more this will feel like it's almost like a pendulum. It's got a slight swaying movement in it. So the thing to visualize is like you're a puppet, like you're a string puppet, and you're being held from above. And now just imagine that the man holding the puppet is just slowly lowering you down, and your legs just have to buckle to take that movement. So what we want is to just go straight down, not let the bum stick out, but not use any muscles to stop the bum from sticking out, just not using muscles to make it stick out. Yeah. So we're just sinking down into the legs, hanging down into it. And then just imagine the string man, the puppet man is pulling you up. Okay, so let's just try that up and down a few times. And so we're just trying to just not tense up, especially when we come up. Yeah? So when you come up, really imagine you're being pulled up from above. So it's almost like a miracle. I mean, obviously it is your legs doing it, but what we don't want is for any of this area to get hard and tense. This area remains completely free as I'm going up and down. Just try your best to keep this in. Temptation all the time is to do this. So the chin in is not so much like a humility or sort of looking down. It's more like just an awareness for what's coming up from the back of the head and up. So it's like an awareness of that place that you're hanging from. So if I was to do this, then I'd be looking up at it, but I would lose my connection with it. So here, by doing this, it's almost like I have a pair of eyes here that come out and look up and just catch on to that place of hanging, that suspension. So we're just trying to make sure that this doesn't do this. So it's almost like you have to inch yourself down, because each little movement actually makes it stick out a bit. I'm just standing again, so feeling this being held, and you're just hanging. Okay, now what we want to do now is just step out to the side. So just the beginning of the form, really. So just lowering yourself down again, but just preferentially into the one leg. And then just step out to the side. Yeah. So just try and make sure that you can get the foot on the ground without putting any weight into it. So the test is whether you can pull the leg back up again. So when it goes out, you want it to be really straightening. Yeah. So you've got one bent leg and one straight leg. So let's try and get this, feeling the head suspended, feeling the spine hanging. You should be able to feel like the vertebra stretching apart. So the spine is lengthening downwards. Normally when we're sinking, it's getting compressed by the earth squeezing you against gravity. So here we're just almost pretending the earth isn't there, and we're just hanging from above. So again, just letting it, lowering yourself into the one leg. Okay. Let's put the foot in again. So just feel that as you lower yourself into the leg, so this leg becomes full, but it's not really full. It's not really full until you've lifted this leg up. And just feel what happens when you lift this foot off the ground. That sort of just gently edges you this way into that outside edge of the foot. So for this leg to actually lift in a relaxed way, there has to be like a rising energy that it's connecting to, rather than me just using muscle to hoik it up. And that is produced by my sinking down into this outside edge, producing a circuit like this. Yeah. So it's all circuits. So first I'm just hanging down. So if I just go into the leg, so my weight's equally distributed over the foot, and I'm just hanging there. But for this leg to come up in a relaxed way, in a natural way, there needs to be a rising here. So I just sink into this outside edge, and that outside edge cuts under and produces this lift on this side. So I now have a sinking here and a lifting here, and my leg is just connecting to that lifting. So this is the feeling. So to start with, when we're here and we're suspended from above, there's no earth, effectively. So I'm hanging, yeah, like a noose. Yeah. I'm just hanging down. And now I just want to, now I'm connecting to the earth. When I actually lower myself down onto it, and I want to feel my own sinking producing the lift. So I let myself lower into this leg, and as I get lower and lower, the leg starts really kicking in. And then I just edge this way slightly to use that outside edge. Yeah, so this is really just the root. Yeah? So the root is really just something that goes into the ground so that something can come back out of the ground up it. Yeah? So this is just exactly what's happening here. Yeah? So to start with, I just I settle down, and then this, as I come onto this outside edge, something from that penetrates the ground and then allows this rising energy to come up. So now the ground is not just a hard surface on which I'm settling, it's now an interface that is allowing a transmission of energy from me into the ground and from the ground up. And I just catch that upwards. So I sprout up. Ooh. Feel this. And you just lower yourself. Okay? You just feel it as the knee starts coming up, it forces something down. It forces something down through the ground. Otherwise, it just won't come off the ground. So here, ooh. Yeah. And what we want to try and catch is this, just that spark as the foot actually comes off the ground. Because that's like the spark of spirit that switches you from being something that's settling on the ground to something that's sprouting up out of the ground. Yeah? So that's the switch that we need to make. Otherwise, the sinking is always depressive. Yeah? So the sinking is just getting you down. Yeah? So we get down in order to spring up. But in order to spring up, we have to be under the ground. We need a presence under the ground in our root. Yeah? So here, I'm being suspended here. And then just let yourself lower down. And just feel that point where the foot just pops off the ground. And now you have a presence under the ground now. Yeah? So it's like at each centimeter this knee comes up, something of me has to go down into the ground the same distance. Yeah? This is why it just feels more and more charged up the higher you bring the knee. So now it's like you're down here looking up at the world rather than having been up here looking down on the world. And so it's just naturally more engaging, more exciting, less depressive. goodness. So now we'll pick it up and we'll step out to the side. Just get it suspended from above. And just feel it, you know, so when you're suspended from above, it's like a solemnity, it's solemn. Enid Blyton uses that word a lot, and it's actually a beautiful word. So, you know, there's this solemnity to lowering yourself down, but then there's this real impassioned fire that comes up from underneath that starts to just burn away that solemnity, melt it, if you like. Melt the coldness. And then you just step out. But what you have to be careful here is that you don't fall into the leg. So if you think about it, your center of gravity is actually moving in that direction as you extend the leg. So you have to move in this direction slightly to balance that. So you're coming even more onto the outside edge of the foot and just lowering the foot. And then once the foot's on the ground, you just come across into it and the hands just circle. There's no big deal. Yeah. So this is a place of, like, this is riding horse, yeah, effectively. Just feel how like flat and stable and boring it feels compared to standing on one leg and stepping out. Okay, now let's try the other side. So just going through the whole thing again. So really just hanging from above, so chin in. Is that beautiful picture of Chen Manqing pushing or helping a girl get the right posture off center. And remember, we're pushing the chin in not to get depressed, not to sort of get down, but in order to send something up and catch what it is I'm suspending from. Just release the legs so you get this real sense of the sacrum being heavy and hanging down through the spine stretching. And then just lower yourself onto the one leg, onto my left leg now. Let's just try that without picking the foot up a couple of times. So, one. So feel the foot really planted on the ground. And now just slip this way very slightly to get into that outside edge. And just feel that cutting under. So now you're making this circuit. You're cutting under with the outside edge of the foot. And that brings the energy up this side and allows you to lift that foot off the ground. And all the time you're being suspended from here. So in a sense, what we're just trying to soften the legs. Yeah. So they're more like springs that are just being bouncing and compressing and expanding, and so they've got this buoyant quality to the legs. They're always supplying energy. So here I'm just sinking down into this springy, elastic, rubbery leg, getting into here, and then this foot can come off the ground. But all the time there's this sort of gentle bounce in the leg. It's not hard and stiff. It's not holding something rigidly. It's always bouncing. And again, that's just the heartbeat. Yeah? So I'm throbbing into this posture. Yeah, if it's difficult to stand on one leg, then just have a chair or a stool that you can just stick your leg on. just to get that sense of just being in the one leg and the outside edge of the leg. All the time, just trying to keep this whole area relaxed and free. Then, how do you get up? Okay, just head suspended. Then just lower yourself down. And just feel this. So that energy that comes up from the earth is so light and lively and gentle and beautiful. And so that's what we want to feel. So from this heaviness that is induced by gravity, the opposite comes up. So that's like a grace from the earth. All the time, trying not to forget this. Just put the foot down, and then just sort of feeling this is like coming back to some sort of normality, if such a thing is possible. And now again, just suspended from here. And then just lower yourself down. Bring the foot up. And send the foot out. Again, just feel how you have to move very slightly, maybe only a millimetre or two in that direction to balance this going out. So remember, in Taoism, if you want to send something out to the right, you also have to send something to the left. So here, and then just put the foot on the ground, but you should be able to bring it up. Yeah? And then just moving across, and just let that billow you out. And effectively, we're in line pause with the palms. And now just slipping into this leg. Bring this leg up and straighten up. This suspended, sinking into this leg, cutting under the ground. So just feel how you need, the same way you can have like a mindful presence here above the head at the back, you also need to have a mindful presence under the ground to allow this rising energy to take the knee up. Otherwise, the knee's too heavy for it. Yeah. So your sinking strengthens that upward flow. And then you just extend the leg out, making sure that you're single weighted. And then you just roll across and just settle in the middle. And just let everything relax. So this feels decidedly grey compared to the colour and the activity of standing on one leg. So this is what we're just trying to impress upon ourselves, really. The value in single weightedness. And then just slipping into this leg and bringing this foot up. Again, lifting from here, lowering, this real sense of lowering down into this edge, picking the leg up. Just feel yourself going into the ground. The further I want to go down, the more I can bring this knee up. And then I just send that knee out, moving in this direction very slightly. And then I just billow out in order to come into my box. And then into this leg again. Picking the foot up. Second again. Reconnecting with this. Lowering into the leg, stretching down into the leg. Getting under the ground with that outside edge of the heel, cutting under. That enables this to come up. Stepping out, having to move in this direction. It will happen naturally if you just don't freeze. Foot down. And across. Right. Yeah, so as we repeat it, we're sort of waking the body up in a single weighted way, waking one side up, waking the other side up. And then when we come to this, this becomes more and more alive in the way that it should be. So this should be the combination of this side and this side doing their own thing, rather than just a cancelling out. Yeah? So this is what we're trying to catch. Okay, now just let's try a couple more. Just into this foot. Again, you have to get under the ground to lift this foot, and then I can put the foot down and just let myself come up. Now reconnect here. Stretching the spine up, letting this hang down into the legs, and just lower yourself down. Feeling the outside edge, cutting under the ground so that you can bring this up. And then stepping this way, moving this way very slightly. It's almost like you're stretching a parquet. And then moving across into the middle. And just, so in a sense, what this is doing, it's making sure that you don't just agglomerate into a still lump in the middle. You're still very much two sides that are cooperating in this equilibrium. So the more you get into Tai Chi, the more you feel like you're going crazy. Because it's just making you schizophrenic, it's splitting you into two all the time. And then you become like a parent that's just trying to make sure these two children don't squabble too much. And now it's just coming to this leg again. So again, just sinking into the leg. So again, you have to cut down to bring this foot up. And then you can put it down. And then you can just let the spring bring you back up. Now I need to reconnect here. Yeah, so the heavens are difficult because we're just not used to it. So we're constantly having to tell ourselves to reconnect to the above. And then just lower down. Trying not to let this get tense. And just feel that outside edge. Just flow down into it in order to get the up for the knee. So this is just equilibrium. Yeah? You're flowing down quite strongly, but you're also flowing up, and that's producing this illusion of stillness. But that stillness is really sort of buoyant and bouncy and shaky and wobbly and unstable. And then just send the foot out, moving very slightly here. And then I just want to move into the middle. And when you're in the middle, just sort of wait long enough for this to sort of come in. So it's not just all this, yeah. So all the time you're relaxing across the sacrum in particular. So there's a real sense of just falling, splitting apart and just falling into the legs. And so the more you fall, the more you split apart, the more you relax and allow yourself to be torn, the more it draws your attention onto the natural tension that is holding you together. So that's the down chair. So this is having to pull more and more to actually hold you together, to stop you from just losing it. This is how we get to the down chair, by concentrating on the opposite, if you like. Okay, and now let's just try just getting into riding horse proper. Which is, they call this hugging a tree, don't they, in the Chinese? So there's this sense that you're going around something that's really big. And then again here. Yeah. So you're holding the world. Yeah? You're holding this large bundle that is trying to sort of burst out. So you need this really strong containing energy to actually hold this energy that's just wanting to do this. So the legs are wanting to straighten and the arms are wanting to burst apart. And so you're having to really work to keep the hands moving towards each other and to keep yourself sinking down towards the ground. Let's try again. So, feel it in the leg as well. The leg, you're doing the same thing with the leg. It's just attached to the ground, so you can't see it, but it's the same opening in the hip as you're getting in the shoulder. The same embracing this large space that you've got here. Yeah, so this circle is as big as you can possibly contain. So just feel just how sunk you need to be to stabilize that somehow, so that it doesn't pull you over or. So again, I'm using the turn to send out this wing of energy, which my arm follows. So just feel that you're much bigger than you really are. So you've got this energy body that's all around. And the main component of that energy body are your wings, like an angel. So you can think of wings sprouting from your shoulder blades, but also sprouting from the sacroiliac joints. So you've got like two wings here that come round.
And so when we do this, we're catching both wings. Okay? So there's a wing like a skirt that's coming around my leg, like those Aikido trousers they wear, and round here. Okay, so when you're in riding horse and it's really big like this, there's always a sense that your bum's sticking out a bit. Yeah. So it hasn't got to this yet. Yeah? It's more like it would be if it was really a tree. You know, so if you think of, you know, there's a tree here and you're embracing it not just with your arms, but with your legs as well. So your knees are trying to go around the tree in the same way that your hands are getting around the tree. Okay, so again, so 1 and 2. Okay. So just feel this getting you into the outside edge of the foot. Like this is going to come off the ground. And then this getting you into this outside edge of the foot. Yeah? So your 2 feet are digging down and producing this rising current that's coming up in your riding horse. So you're producing this tree, if you like, that's coming up around you, in front of you, and you're embracing it. You're getting under it and around it. Now, the thing that's difficult, for me anyway, is relaxing the ankles so that you really are on the ground. You're sort of, you've got this real sort of planted in the ground feeling. Yeah. So for that, you have to let the bum out a bit, and you have to just really just let go. Yeah. Almost like you're shitting, yeah? Like you're just letting go to let it all come out. And then that will just cut the ankles in and just get your heels into the ground. And so the difficulty is always that switch that changes everything around, so that from being something that's struggling to get in the ground, I'm suddenly in the ground, you know, aching, burning to get out of it. So that's like a switch of spirit, but it springs something open. So when the spirit switches on, something springs open, and then suddenly you're in the ground, but you become like a different creature. This is what John was just investigating all the time we're in Blakely. Just this sort of other energy body that springs into action when you make that real connection with the ground, that spirited connection with the ground. Let's try again. This is wrong. Round, really let something flow out of the sacroiliac, like a stream of energy comes out of your sacroiliac, like a ribbon attached to the back of your trousers. So you're just creating this current that will take the ribbon, and then here you're just cutting down into those outside edges, and something manifests in this space. And then you just have to relax across the sacrum and let's let your tail out. And then suddenly you're in a different reality. Okay, and now here, just want to bring the hands down. So how do I get the hands from here to here? So what I do, I just break here a little bit. So in a sense, it's this action of bringing the hands to here that actually springs you into that energy body proper. Yeah, it's like that's the switch, if you like. So let's just try. So going round here and then round here. So this is like building up the energy, and then you just something in you just sinks down. Your tail starts going out. Yeah, you have to try and become expert at sending your tail out without sticking your bum out too much. Yeah. If you basically sticking the bum out is straightening my legs into this posture, which is leaning forwards. Yeah. So when I say get the tail out without sticking your bum out, I mean just point the tail back, but come into the legs even more. Don't let yourself straighten out of them like this. So it's like your hands are making a connection with the ground, very similar to how the feet are. Yeah. So it's a bit, in the postures, where you have one hand on a cushion of air. It's exactly the same thing here, but we've just got both hands on. So let's try again. So round, round. And then here, just break here very slightly, just enough to get your tail squeezing back. So just feel the ground, feel that, right, feel the cushion of air that's coming up from the ground because of the way that you're standing on it. Yeah, so your feet are sort of squeezing this energy up. And you're really sprung. You imagine if you were walking on the ground on all fours, just how strong your shoulders would have to be to stop yourself collapsing down into it. Let's try again. So round. Really let your tail extend backwards, like a lizard's tail or a dinosaur's tail or a kangaroo's tail. So it's back, and you're extending forwards here. So you really are all spine with just these two supports here. Okay, so 1 and 2. And then it's the break here. Just that, letting my tail out, it takes me down even more. Okay, now just really extend the tail back, but in order to lift the hands up. That's it. So just feel this flow from the thymus forwards down this channel that you're making with the arms. Yeah, so you become like a pressure cooker. It's like the pressure is building up inside. So you're threatening to explode. So in a sense, everything you're doing when you're in a posture like this is to increase the pressure. So you're pushing the outside edges into the ground. You're extending the tail. You're glaring forwards. Now just bring the hands and just put them on your sacrum and just push the sacrum in. So just come up into a pretty much vertical spine, but by pushing yourself into the legs even more. And just feel how strong this is. So again, so just round, round. Yeah, so you're hugging a tree, you're also becoming a tree. Yeah. So just embed that image of the tree in your mind. So you are the trunk, and above you there's this canopy, this crown. Okay, now from there we slip into animal mode. So by breaking here, by actually bringing my trunk, my spine, more onto the horizontal. So I just let the tail out and just bring the hands out. Like your hands really want to connect with the ground. It's no longer enough just to have your feet on the ground. Yeah, so there's real attention in the hands, the way there would be if you were holding something or manipulating something. Just really spreading out across here, across the back. Just feel the sacrum. So you'd like your presence to be announced as much by your sacrum as by your face, like with dogs and cats do. So you have this tail. And now let's just go down. So just keep it going, but intensify. Just really going down. Just keep on going until the hands touch the ground. And then back up. Now just pressing down here. Okay, so now let's just try from here. So, head suspended. First thing, head suspended. You know, John used to say, just imagine you're standing in a waterfall, and the water's cascading around you, but this is being pulled up through it. And we just want to lower ourselves into this leg. So, how do you break the leg? How do you bend the leg and just break the joints in order to let this smoothly down without your bum going out? So that's the problem in this bit here. Whoa. And then just feel how you really need to, that outside edge just needs a bit of spirit, a bit of activity to actually cut it under so that this foot can come up. And then just step out. And now just with the hands. Okay, so the next bit in the form, this bit here. And so how does that happen? So what is it that makes the hands come up? So really it's just you letting the tail out. Because if you let the tail out, then something will come out of here. Yeah? And if I pull the tail in, then something will pull in here. Yeah? So there's like a little law that you can extend out. And it just happens naturally. If when you're greeting someone, especially someone you like, yeah, your heart goes out to them. But if you feel it, then your tail goes out as well. Yeah. So from here, I just let the tail out. So it's effectively I break here, just tiny, tiny bit. Yeah. I break there. And then my hands just want to follow my energy. Yeah. So my hands come up. And now I bring the person in. Yeah. So you can either pull the tail under and use that to lure them in. Or you can actually bend even more here, which is what they do in the traditional yoga style, not the Chen Manqing one. So breaking here sends out the energy, and then here they really break in order to, because when they yield, there's a sense of them folding over the person, as well as making a hole to let them through. So it's very sort of compressive. Yeah. So let's just try one this side. So head suspended. And then just lower yourself. Oh, it's really difficult. Yeah. Just letting go and just letting yourself flow down. And then cut into the ground. Just feel what needs to happen to get that relaxation, becoming active and a little bit meaningful. Yeah. So I've slipped down in here, and then suddenly I just cut under the ground with that outside edge, and that enables this up. Yeah. So now I have the same relaxation, but now there's the presence of spirit. And then you just send the foot out. Wow. Yeah. So you should be able to do this really lightly. Wow. And then just circling. Feel both sides of the body. It's double weighted in the sense that you have equal weight in each foot, but it's not locked together. You could so easily just fall into either leg. And then very slight break here to send the tail out, but really you're using the tail to extend something out from here, like there's a bird or butterfly escaping from a cage in your chest, and your hands just follow it. And then just bring the hands in. So you're just creating a circuit that goes down your body and up the body of the other person. And so it's always difficult, this bit here in the form, because you're never quite sure how it comes from the waist or from the sinking or whatever. But it's actually very important because it's establishing the relationship between you and the other person. Yeah? If this is you inviting the world in and embracing the world in a general way, then this is you making a really intimate connection with that person and bringing them in so close you could kiss them. You know, they're so close. So let's try that again. So you just want to make sure that the arms lift because you've caught that rising energy, the same way that the foot lifts because we've caught that rising energy. Now, when we're in the leg, we just let that outside edge cut into the ground. So it's a bit like in the sumo, you know, where they lift the leg up like this. So the more they lean over here, the more this side of the body will come off the ground. Yeah? Now here, you just have to let the tail out in order to produce this column. Yeah? So I just let my tail out and the hands just lift. Whoa. And then you can use the belly, you can pull the belly in, yeah, to actually draw the hands in, back down to the hip. Yeah. So let's try again to just very subtle, just let the tail out. Wow. So that letting the tail out to bring the hands up is exactly the same as the way you let the tail out to hook the heels backwards. Yeah. So that actually sinks you. Again, just break here very slightly. Wow. And just use the muscle in the belly. We've done a lot of work on that, so it's there. And just feel how the mood changes. Yeah. So it's like when you send your tail out, you become a bit like a squirrel. You know, a squirrel that's all bright and sort of bright-eyed and bushy tail. And then when you pull the belly in, you just become a little bit sort of mean. So the mood changes. You're coming inside. Yeah. You're bringing them in. So here you're sending out a lasso or a net. You're catching something and then you're reeling it in. Yeah. So see, we're becoming fishermen of men. Tail. Just train your tail to be really active. So it all happens in the tail first. And then in a way that the hands are elastic to move because they're furthest from the tail. So the tail is much closer to my feet. Right. And now let's just get into riding horse again. So now you should feel well and truly fucked, tired, yeah? Now the problem then is, how do you come down from that without getting down? And that's basically the main problem with any internal work. how do you come back to reality? Or how do you come back to the world, to the awfulness of your life? You know, like if you do an activity that you're not used to for a long time, then you know when you're trying to get to sleep at night, it's like the body's still doing it. So that should be the feeling like this stuff. So there's a presence through the day. Okay, so let's bring it back. So just feel the feet grabbing the ground. Okay.